Okay, it is my privilege to introduce Carl Byrd to come and share his job search story. Carl has one thing that you guys don't know about him. He is the current president of IBM.
Secretary.
Oh, yeah, sorry, secretary of the IBM, the International Brotherhood of Magicians, and he is a magician. So, Carl, it's all you. I don't know if you brought a trick to share today. I did say that if you had one, great, you could show it, but you don't have to.
I got a little one that I tried to come up with something, think about something that would be pertinent to what we're talking about, and so we'll go through that here as we go through. Well, I think I'll do it at the end instead of partway through. So,
Okay.
all right. So, I'm Carl. I worked with Steve since June through December. Then we got a job, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I know some of you, I don't know others, but if you have any questions as I'm talking, please just interrupt me. Just say, "Hey, Carl," you don't need to wait till the end. Um, I don't know how organized this is going to be, so I'll probably hop a little there. So just please ask any questions if any come up, middle of it, at the end, whatever. Um, so I worked for the same series of companies. There were several purchases. Company we started with Company A, Company B bought them, Company C bought them. But I was with them for 40 years. Overall. I worked in Wyoming, Nevada, and Utah in a series of different positions, starting off from my as a summer hire in Wyoming, cleaning ditches and painting fire hydrants, and finishing up as a corporate auditor. So along the way, I went back to school. I started with a little bit of schooling, went back to school and got a health and safety degree, which kind of paved the road for my moving out of manufacturing operations into health and safety and eventually into a couple of corporate positions. So about my wife was let go from her job last February. So that was a little bit of stressful times. We had to decide if she wanted to go back to work, if she didn't. We were going through all of that. Then along and she just figured out what she wanted to do. And along came June 3rd when I got to go and visit with HR, my manager, right? And was let go. A little bit of a surprise, not a huge surprise, because over the previous 14 or 15 months, I'd seen many colleagues in the same situation, but I had been told many times that my role was pretty safe. So not very much fun. I had to go through the stages of loss and grief like everybody does, where you go through your the hardest one to get rid of and get over is the anger, I guess. We think we've all probably been there. Um, I I'm a religious person, and what I prayed for was not for a job, but I prayed for the right job, and that it would come along, and that I'd be able to recognize it. Because my situation at work I'd had three managers in the past 3 years, every one of them doing different things, changing what the one before had done, um, different programs, different requirements, things like that, and I really was not enjoying it. So about the time that my wife got laid off in February, I started looking for um, internal positions where I could transfer internally so I could be managed by somebody in the US versus Australia, which is where my previous three managers had been. Um, I optimized my LinkedIn profile. I went on and they said I looked up and I said what is a good LinkedIn profile, and got some good advice, some conflicting advice, but I kind of tried to do that on my own, getting over 500 contacts, starting to post, do a few things like that. And I had a so-so LinkedIn profile when I met Steve, and he helped me to optimize it. But at least I had a start, right? That helped me, I think, be a little bit ahead of the curve because I wasn't starting at zero. I was starting at maybe 30, right? Looking for a job. It'd been so long since I looked for a job externally that I really had no clue how to do it. So I approached my job search differently than some of my colleagues on here. I decided to take a little bit of time before I started working. I completed some LinkedIn courses. I completed some external courses that I had wanted to get done, some auditing certifications that my previous managers had said those aren't necessary. We do our in-house auditing. You don't need to be certified as an ISO auditor, things like that, right? So I went and got some of those done before I really started looking for work, thinking that um, I'm so wonderful. This is going to make me more wonderful, right? And I'll be able to get a job quickly. Well, yeah, surprise to me, right? So, um, I very quickly in the process decided I did not want to relocate. I had some job offers that would have required relocation to different states, most of them on the East Coast, and I didn't want to do that. And I'd done that twice before with the company, moved for them. I didn't want to be somewhere where I was going to be somewhere for 8 weeks and somewhere else, then move somewhere else for 6 weeks and do that because that would mean my wife would be more difficult for my wife to be with me. I got grandkids here, so that factored certainly into the decision that I didn't want to relocate. Um, So as those opportunities or expressions of interest came along, I declined them. Now I have to be honest that 3 or 4 months into the job search, I was second guessing myself. Should I have expressed more interest? Should I reach back out to them? Should I see what we can do? And again, it just didn't feel right that I was for me to move, so I didn't. I did have a lot of reach outs for things such as new window sales, siding sales, roof and solar sales, entry-level banking and real estate positions, over-the-road truck driving, HVAC and plumbing, fast food franchise opportunities. I don't know. They all came and I was not interested in any of them. And I kept thinking, well, there's all these things coming along. Why can't I get something besides a scam or something I'm not interested in, you know? Um, so I only applied to jobs that I was interested in. Um, First, pay was a big consideration for me, but as I went through the process and realized that I wasn't probably going to get the same pay that I had, I was going to have to take less. And as I reflected back on the previous couple years at my job, I realized that job satisfaction um, had decreased over those years. Job-related stress had increased quite a bit. And I was not happy with what I had been doing. So actually, it sounds kind of funny, but being laid off was probably a blessing, right? It forced me to look for something that would be better for my mental and physical health, even if the pay was less. If I would enjoy it, if I could do it well, I would I would consider it. Also looked at starting my own consulting business. And he actually went so far as to I got a phone number and was about ready to do my LLC paperwork and was fudging with that when this other opportunity came along. Also thought about going ahead and taking early Social Security and working part-time, doing whatever just to supplement the income, um, but didn't ended up not needing to go down that road. Um, my time at home was crazy, enjoyable in many ways, but frustrating in many other ways. I'm sure it was the same way for my wife, seeing me try to find a job and not be able to. It wasn't the best mental status for me, but it was still, even in that case, it was still better than what I had been doing when I was working. I still had less stress than when I was working in that atmosphere. So eventually, obviously, at 5 months, I was sure I'd be employed, and I wasn't. I was trying to think of, well, we got to figure out, Carl, what we're going to do here because January 1st was your deadline, and that's coming up pretty quick here. And I saw a posting on the state job site for a job with the state working for OSHA. So state OSHA, the Occupational Health and Safety Administration, in their consulting and education division. Now, most everybody realizes that OSHA comes in and hi, we're here to do an inspection, and they leave, and you've got some monetary penalties, and you've got some um, things that you have to fix. They also have an education and consultation side, which goes out and will do an evaluation of the workplace, tell you things that you need to fix, but without any penalties, without any citations, without any communication with the enforcement side. And that was very similar to what I had been doing internally for my last employer. So I looked up I had the job description. I looked up the people who were listed on there. Once I found out I had an interview, I looked them up, on LinkedIn and everywhere else. I called some people in my company and other companies I knew, safety guys had them come in, had the education and consultation side come in and ask them how that had gone. Were they happy with the product, the service that had been provided to them? And they were all very positive about it. So I went ahead and on the last day possible, I put in my application. It was a Sunday night and the job was posting was closing the next day. So I thought about it for a couple weeks, right? Put it in and was a little bit sad. So I guess here's a hint if you haven't gone through this. Man, it took me 3 hours to go through that thing because I had to upload my resume. Then I, had to put everything that was on my resume back into the application. Then I had to go through some screening questions. It took a lot longer than I thought it would. So I'm glad I didn't wait till 11 o'clock. I'm glad I started at 6 p.m. So, um, because of my previous experiences and being in that same field, I thought I can do this. They're gonna want me. I bring a lot of experience, but that was tempered by the fact of, and I had seen this in some other jobs, even though, it's never stated that I'm old, right? You can tell by looking at me. I've got 40 years in the industry. There, it's that outlier out there that nobody will talk about, but you think is thought about, right? Is how long will he be with us? Is he going to retire? When's he going to retire? Da 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 da. So I was a little concerned, but I went into the interview. I felt afterwards I'd aced it. I'm going to go over some of the questions here, just so you guys know what they asked me. But um, I had the interview. 2 days later, they called and asked if they could contact my references that I had provided. I said yes, and then 4 hours later, I was offered the position, and so I jumped up and down. I will tell you that I'm making quite a bit money, quite a bit less than I previously was, and I thought that I was worth just because that's what I was getting paid. But I'm in a job now that I know I'm going to love. Um, the people I work with, the manager I have, they remind me of what I had 20 years ago when I worked for a small company before we got purchased and became a conglomerate, right? Um, it definitely the right decision. It was definitely worth waiting for. Um, that's how I feel now after 4 weeks. So I'm gonna stop now and see if anybody has any questions or anything I can clarify. Okay,
Who should I
so
put?
interview question. Yes,
Who's first? All right.
I'm sorry.
Well, you're not totally done. That was just a break, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody wants, I just thought we'd give a chance to talk about anything I said before I talk about the questions I was asked.
Oh, I liked your comments regarding job satisfaction and job stress and waiting for the right job. I mean, that was, it's like I think many of us are here like I'm getting to the point I want something right away and it's like, well, hold out for the right job.
It wasn't easy, right? But it paid off for me. So thank you. So the interview team consisted of the hiring manager from the consultation side, her colleague on the enforcement side, and their manager, who's the director. I was kind of surprised the HR person who set it up wasn't there, but it didn't matter to me, right? So they told me at the very beginning they had similar questions for every candidate. They were going to read through them. They were going to write down responses and impressions of the answers that I gave. They might do some extended and very similar to what we all look for with either behavior-based question interview or things like that. Before they started, the first thing they did was they verified the position and the wage that was being paid and asked if I wanted to proceed. And I'm pretty sure that's because they had a pretty good idea that I was taking a pay cut, and they wanted to make sure that I guess I had seen that in the job posting, what the wage was and everything else. And what I agreed to that and said, yeah, absolutely. And we started. Most of the questions were pretty typical. Walk us through your resume, Well, so I gave the 1 minute quick version, right, of where the places I'd worked, the roles I'd had, and things like that. They did ask for a little clarification on a couple of things. They wanted to know about my formal and informal education that specifically applied to the position I was applying for. Um, then we got into some of the behavior based. Tell us about a time you disagreed with a coworker and how it was resolved. And then the same question with the manager and how it was resolved. Wanted to know about my experience in training other people, including a number of people, the largest number of people I'd ever trained, what sort of methods I used, examples of topics, and then they went into depth on one of those topics. Wanted to know some more information about it. Asked me if I had any experience with industrial hygiene, which I had limited, but we talked about what limited I had. Um, they asked about the last audit I had performed from the initial steps of scheduling a date up until the final report. So I walked them through that process, which turned out to be very similar. I think most audits are similar to what they do. Um, Asked me about audit reports, what style I used, how I wrote reports for different audiences. Say, for example, the site supervisor or manager at the site I was versus a CEO or a board of directors. And then they asked me if I was comfortable traveling overnight as part of the job. And that was about it. I was surprised that there weren't more questions, but we took about 45 minutes for the interview. So they did ask for more clarification, a little more information on some of those questions as we went through them. And so I was glad that I had prepped. I went down and I went on, used AI to ask some questions about what sort of questions should I expect for this type of job? What is a good answer? And some of them I didn't agree with, but some of them I did, and they helped me craft my responses maybe a little more, what the right word is, maybe I was a little more fluent or a little more not quite as rough as what I would have done. Some of the answers they suggested I give, I wasn't comfortable with because it wasn't me or it wasn't what I had done, you know. So you kind of do have to be a little bit careful when you're using AI. Um, let's see.
Carl, you said you prepped and you went down to, what did you say you used?
I just used a couple of different AI programs, and I don't remember which ones now, Steve. There were ones that I had in my notes from our meetings here.
Okay.
So I tried several of them, not just one, just to see what the differences might be. Um, Saying I'm applying for this. This is I would put in this is the position description. One of them I actually put in my resume as well, and said help me prepare for this interview. Right. I'm not an AI expert by any means. I kind of stumbled through it, but I was able to get some good use out of it. I'm old enough that I'm a little leery of AI, having remembering back to movies like War Games and things like that, you know. But I think there is a lot of good in there, but you know, take it with a grain of salt. That's I know Steve has talked about that, and he talked with me about it, but there is some good stuff in there. I did go over my notes and things from these classes and went back actually and looked at some of the things that Steve had posted, some of the other interviews that the other reports people are giving, like I'm doing now, of things like that, just to try to be ready because I really felt like I needed to put my put me forward in the best light possible because if I didn't get this job, then I was gonna probably go back to really seriously thinking about retirement, right? Which I really wasn't ready to do. I know I would have worked somewhere, and I didn't want to be a Walmart greeter. I didn't want to be making sub sandwiches, but you know, I could do that, but it's not where my passion is, right? My passion is with safety, and that's what I wanted to do. Um, Now, the Walmart greeter, I got some good friends, good friends, good acquaintances at Walmart. We talk. I love those guys. We talk. I go in, how you doing today? We don't even know each other's names, but they see me once a week and we remember each other, you know? And I thought I could do that, but I'm not. So, I think I mentioned this in one of our meetings that I don't know why. I just took my open to work off of LinkedIn. I said, you know, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to sit back, and this was probably like in October. I'm going to just take a little break here. A week later, I put it back on, and I was surprised because my network shared everything again. It showed back up on all their things, and they reposted it. I got some feedback from some contact and reach out from recruiters and things, do that LinkedIn post. So that may work. You may think about trying that. Take it off for a week or two and then put it back on and see if that doesn't maybe drive some interest. Steve has talked about thank you cards. When he did, I bought some thank you cards, but I never had an in-person interview I could use them at. But I did always send a thank you email. And at this last interview, I got a couple of responses after I had been offered and accepted the job. And my manager said, my current manager said, "Thank you for the thank you card. We don't get those very often. I could not respond to you until after you had been offered the position." So that shows me that the emails, the cards work like Steve says they do. So pay attention to him on that, right? Okay, before I do a little magic trick demonstration about my job search, are there anything we want to discuss?
Sure, I'll line everybody up here in the gallery like we normally do. So hold on. We will start with uh Tommy. Tommy, do you have any questions for Carl?
I really don't. Congratulations. When you start talking about age, it made me think about that. Um, have you ever actually mentioned anything about age when you're in an interview?
Nope,
Because we are starting to look old.
it was never asked. It's one of those taboo prohibited questions. However, I do have a friend who works in North Carolina for the state government, and he said to me, "Carl, I'm so happy for you. I didn't think you would get a job because even though it's not talked about in his thing, it's talked around and it is a consideration." So
Yeah. Yeah, I've still got 15 years, so I didn't know whether to play that card or not, because
yeah,
people see me and think, how long are you going to work? How many people stay at a company for 15 years? So
yeah, yeah.
thanks.
All right. Randomly, next up is Kevin.
Hey, congratulations, Carl.
Thank you.
That's awesome. You were one of the first ones I met, I think, when I came on here. So I was glad to see you get the job. And I think we both live in Riverton, so glad to see you're back working. I think I don't really have a lot of questions, but I think I appreciate the vulnerability and just you talking about some of the things that was hard that you went through. I think I've experienced a lot of the similar stuff. Age and just kind of your identity becomes part of work. And I haven't been happy. I was not happy in my last job for the last year either. And just corporate America, all that other stuff. So, yeah, I'm just glad that you're on the other side and that you're happy. And I think hopefully I'm going to find something soon, but I think I'm probably going to be a little bit in the same boat of hopefully a job that I'm happier with, but probably isn't going to pay as much. But also looking for other opportunities to supplement that too. But yeah, no, just congratulations. I'm glad that you found something and that you're past this now.
Thank you. And best of luck to everybody on this call too. I know this is a group none of us want to be in, but it's a good group to be in, right? Because it's a lot better than doing it on our own. So
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Next up is Laura.
Well, first I'll say, I'll do the
I thought I put her there's her video. Okay.
Okay, sorry. I just did the wrong one. Still conditioned. First say congratulations. That's great. I've been searching just as long, but I just recently joined Steve's group. So this is a great way to just feel better about the search process. I like the things you mentioned about less pay, less stress, because I'm definitely looking at that. I'm like, if I can find something I think I like, it may not be the ultimate passion, but it's still something I would be passionate about. I'm definitely looking at that because I was a six-figure, and I'm really nervous that they'll do a six-figure for someone that's more senior. I'm trying to think. How did you keep your not courage up, but your spirits up? You said Steve's group, but what was some of your internal grit or drive or whatever?
so end of every week was tough. Thinking about, okay, how many contacts have I had? How many interviews have I not had? Right. So
Yeah.
so each weekend I would try to reset start fresh the next week. And it was always the fresh start was with this meeting. It was in the morning, and that would I tended to get my spirits up. You know, you're not the only one. There are people who are leaving the group because they've been employed. I kept in contact with several of my other former employees who were still working, but also those who had been laid off, and we traded tips as well. You know, they were at, I think a couple, I think Tom, maybe some of you remember Tom Ankowski was in this group, but a lot of them through the company provided they were in different groups around either here through Ogden through Steve's group, or in some in different areas of the country. And so we kind of traded, started our own little former Dino employees chat group, right? Where we traded tips of what was working, what was not. Some job opportunities came through those. And again, they were never located here in the valley, Salt Lake Valley. But I think that was the biggest thing, was to stop on the weekends and reset, and then start the week off positive again.
Yeah, I work through the weekend in some shape or form. Not Sundays so much, but busy doing other stuff. But yeah, it's pretty much. I feel like it's not. I take breaks when I just feel like I have to or need to. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the tips.
Okay. Next up is Kyle.
I guess my only thought that jumped out at me is like, I know we all have to consider things that we can't be discriminated for, like age. You know, like that, you said it's like a taboo thing, but it's not just taboo, it's illegal.
Well, yeah.
You know, and so, but that being said, if you're having that thought, the person sitting across the desk from you probably is too. You know, like like I know so many of them have like, hey, do you have a disability, like in the application process? And I always, I'm diabetic, so I put yes. I'm like, I don't know if that helps or hurts, but it feels weird that they always ask. So,
it does. But as I went through this with this last position, man, that disability list is huge now, right?
yeah.
And so I think that works in favor. I answered yes because I'm a cancer survivor. I don't know how that is
Relevant.
pertinent, but at the same time, and I thought, do I put no? But I answered yes, and as I looked at all the other examples I thought, man, this is huge. This is going to affect almost everybody. Something on here, right?
Yeah. And then the other thought that I had is that I guess the greatest compliment that any of us can give to being in a group like this is to know that it's a ship of Theseus, where the individual parts come and go, but the function remains the same. Like the first week that I came in here, I had just barely been laid off, right? And then to know that other people had searched for a really long time was really discouraging to me. To know that people were looking for 10 months for work and things like that, and like, so I was going like, oh well, sure, I'll take the week of the holidays off, but I'll be back to work the first of the year for sure, right?
Yeah.
So that but like that, I guess, is a thing that is reassuring to me, is that I'm not, like you said, I'm not the only one. There are others that are going through this too, and hopefully we're all finding something in a time frame that's desirable, if not the perfect one for us. So
right.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle. Since we're getting into this HR thing, we're gonna throw Lori in here. Maybe she could talk about that. By the way, the networking event on Wednesday, there'll probably be somebody from the state of Utah there. I believe that Carl, he's been at WIN before, the Wasatch Employer Network. And now if I can remember, I'm having a senior moment. I have those occasionally. Labato from the state of Utah, she's with disability. So if anybody has any disability questions, she's there because she helps to try to get people who have a disability, give them an opportunity to work as well. So, okay, Lori.
Steve, before Lori starts, can I say something?
Yeah.
I didn't touch at all on the networking event. So I just wanted, for you new guys, some of them are virtual, some of them are in person. They were important. They were important to me because it helped me feel better about myself. I did give out some resumes. Some of them, there was nothing there for me. There was nothing that I was looking for whatsoever, but I didn't. It wasn't a waste of time. I felt it was good because it gave me a better overview of the type of employment opportunities that were available that week or that month. Those typically change. So I would certainly encourage any of you who haven't to go to a few. Don't just go to one. Go to a few and see how they work for you. It makes you dress up a little bit instead of sitting in your sweats behind your computer, right? At least it did me. It makes you print out some resumes, you review it again, you're ready for an on-the-spot interview if it comes, and it's all good stuff for your job search. So, thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Carl.
So, to address a couple of things. So, HR works very hard to make managers aware of their unconscious bias. So, when you're sitting across the table and you're like, oh, are they judging me because I'm old? HR tries very hard to make people aware that if you're having that thought, that's an unconscious bias and it's illegal. And so you need to look at what they can contribute rather than, hey, that old lady's probably like 55. So at least in my case. So and as far as the disability goes, that's strictly federal reporting. That doesn't even come through to as part of your application, even if they print the application out. That's not anywhere on it. That's simply federal reporting. So, congratulations, Carl. I'm glad that your experience with the state was much better than mine. Prior to working at Burt Brothers, I had been off work by my choice, off work for about almost 2 years. So the state was one of the first interviews I had after starting to apply for positions again. And the position I have no idea why they even actually called me to interview for that position, but I was my experience was not as good as yours. Let's put it that way. So I'm glad that you had a good experience.
Well, I'm sorry about that. I've been that with some other interviews, right, where it was like what a waste of my time. But so I'm sorry.
Laura has her hand up, but I don't know if it's relevant to Lori.
Yeah, yes, I do think the first one came up when you said that because I've had other people who are looking for jobs ask the same thing. The disabilities, what's that for? And with that Workday lawsuit where they were taking like demographic stuff and using that for just filtering for not qualifying, can they?
Yeah, that's illegal to
But
use
but
that demographic. So
but they could still use it. That's what the Workday lawsuit's about. Where they?
that's why Workday is being sued
Yes.
because they're not supposed to use it in that. It's strictly federal reporting.
Okay. And then the other is this is years ago when I'm in tech. Entry, I was a repivot to a new career field. And I've had hiring managers tell me they would never hire me because I'm not a cultural fit, which was the thing, age bias. They've also directly told me because I'm too old. And when I told them you couldn't do that, he says, what are you going to do about it? I have connections. I will get you blacklisted throughout the entire industry down across that front.
That's somebody with a power trip. I'm sorry that happened to you. But
Several times. That one was the most powerful, but I
yeah,
had that
that
happen
one
time.
that is a complete power trip by that hiring person, and report them to your state
Where do you report them?
labor division.
Labor division.
So you're anything to do with labor, it's the Department of Labor. So I would report things like that.
Okay. I'm just
That's
lucky to get an interview now. So, but that was I got tons of interviews back then, and so probably
yeah
15%, 15 to maybe 20% would had age things comments.
yeah. Well, if it was years and years ago, that
About
could be
5.
part of about 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you, but
Okay.
yeah, that's been illegal for longer than 5 years to discuss age. So
It's illegal, but I guess there's that underground that they were
well,
going to blacklist you.
again, report it.
Okay.
I do have a question. If we don't fill out that information, do you guys fill it out anyway? Is that when I was at my SHRM meeting once, someone says we have to report the federal stuff, even though, like I said, nobody sees it. Is that something that has to be filled out? Because it's optional, but does it make a difference?
So the EEO portion of it, you have to go in and report. If somebody has answered, I do not wish to participate, you have to go in and mark whether you believe that they are male or female, whether you believe what you believe their ethnicity is, because it's a required federal reporting.
Okay, cool. That's what I had heard. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Tammy.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't really have anything. I've been through this several times, so I know the drill, and I'm just happy that you found something.
Thanks, Tammy.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. Next up is, and I'm making sure I cover everybody. Next up is Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. I really appreciate your insights, and how you felt about and considering the old person question. Yeah, I'm 64. So it's you worry about that. I had one acquaintance that actually dyed his hair. I met him and what'd you do? He dyed his hair so that he didn't look old when he went through the job process. It was very interesting. I thought that was an interesting approach to take there. No, and so I don't know, I just appreciate you going through your feelings about how the process went and how you went through it and your decision making and that type of stuff. Having some things, have I priced myself out of a job, and the salary I was making, and you have several jobs you go through and you get a good bump, and then you come here and you look at and what am I worth and what's out there in the marketplace, and you kind of go, well, heck, I'm probably not going to get a job, at least certainly not at the pay I was making. And then that question of do I retire or not? That's a kind of an interesting thought process to go down too. So I just appreciate your insights and your feelings about what you've gone through. So, and your success. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Brett Hadley.
Yeah, first of all, Carl, congratulations. Way to go. Also, I'm another ex Dino employee, and I don't want to be ripping on the company by any means, but when you mentioned that you noticed a change there. Now you said you were there for 40 years. I was there for 7, but during my 7 years, last year or so, I did notice kind of a change there, and I felt kind of the same way you did. How after I was let go, it was almost I didn't notice it, but I was almost a release because I'm like I wasn't as happy with my job as I was in previous years. So, and obviously, I wish I was still working somewhere, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to say other than yeah, congratulations, and yeah, hopefully the state of Utah is going to be a really good fit for you. I'm excited for you.
The biggest thing I'm excited about is that it's a 40-hour job and I have to get permission to work more than 40 hours. And I was working 60 plus previously, right? So it
Yeah.
almost feels like I'm working part-time. So
It's nice. It's like, you'll be the new kid on the block, Carl, and everybody's gone home. Like, where's everybody going? Like, day's over. Day's over. All right. I think last up, I guess Don popped off here. Is Jason.
hey, Jason.
Hey, it's good to see you. I was worried that you weren't going to come back and say bye. So congratulations. And I you were talking about, you're praying for not just a job, but the right job. And that's something that I've prayed for as well. And how did you know that this one was that? because I've been looking and nothing has ever jumped out that way to me since forever now.
You know, I don't know. It was I think part of it was that, man, I'm a good fit here. They're stupid if they don't hire me, right? I can bring things to the table that will that you won't need to train me to do. I already know how to do. I've already got the experience. But I think a lot of it came from the interview. I answered one question, the question about tell us about your training, and they asked me about the largest group I'd ever trained, which was at a health and safety conference, right? And they asked me about the topic I trained and some of the things. I think that was just mostly to make sure I wasn't blowing smoke, right? But then they asked me what my favorite type of training was. And I said my favorite type of training was one-on-one and gave them example of how I like to walk with an employee, discuss with them the job that they're doing, or if I see a hazard, we stop and we talk about what makes it a hazard, how do we resolve the hazard. And when I got done, my current manager said, I know you don't have a copy of it. You could have just been reading out of our manual. She said, I am very impressed with this. I've never had that answer before. And that really made me feel good about what they
A
were
good
doing,
fit.
right? That they were
Yeah.
doing something similar to what I was already doing and what I felt was the right thing to do. And just the fact that she was willing to tell me that it put me at peace. I think that she would be a good person to work with and work for, which has happened. I also said a prayer when I was done. I said, if this is the right job,
Mm,
make it happen, and I'll take it. So
very cool. Yeah, and one of the things I was knowing we were missing, because I remember a few weeks ago you were saying I'm starting a new trick. So I'm hoping we're going to get to see that then.
yeah, it's not that one. I'm still working on that one. So
Ah,
I have numbness I have in my fingers. It's from my cancer treatments, right? And so I'm having a hard time with that trick because it requires a little bit of riffling of a
yes,
card. So I'm practicing and getting some hints from some of my magician friends of some different ways to do that. But I do have one, and I don't know. I'd be happy. So Steve, right now I have Mondays off. I work tens Tuesday through Friday. So if you want, I'll come back with a trick sometime just for a trick.
Okay, that'd be great. And I don't know which one you bought from Joshua J. But yeah, if you're going to show us trick,
That's what I'm working on. Yeah.
okay.
good luck out there, man.
Thank you. Okay, is that it, Steve?
Yeah.
Trick time?
Unless we sparked any other questions, but I'm ready to see your new trick. And
So this is a pretty simple trick. It's one I use for my grandkids, right? And so I have this rope that's red. It's I'm trying to get my so you can see it's yellow and it's green. Can everybody see that?
you might have to take off the filter on your thing.
Thank you. That's
Yeah,
probably
the autofocus is
yeah.
keeping
Let
on
me
your face,
see
not on your
here
hands.
if I can figure out how to do that.
So go down to the bottom to the
Okay.
video, click the up arrow, and then go to there's a blur my background. Click the blur off the
All
background.
right. So you get to see my yellow bins that are my magic stuff there. So okay, green, yellow, red. It's just a long rope, right? And I use this with my kids. We talk about stoplights. Red means stop. Yellow should mean slow down and stop, not gun it through the intersection, right? And green means go. And we have that little conversation. And I also used it at work for hazards. You have red hazards, which are um, can be fatal, right? Serious injury or fatal. You have yellow hazards, which are you can mitigate with procedures or PPE or other things to keep you safe at work. And then you have a lot of things you do at work that are just safe, right? You just go about and do them. We think that would include walking, but that's not necessarily the case if you slip on the ice or things like that, right? But so I said, how can I make this my go with my job search? So green, I had a job. I was being paid well. I liked the people I work with. I'd been doing it for a long time and felt I was pretty good at it. Then it kind of slowly moved into the yellow area where I was happy, but it like I talked about, it was not, I wasn't as happy as I was a couple years earlier. Then we kind of were in the yellow red area where I'd had three managers. I really did not like my current manager. And what am I going to do about this? I don't want to be fully red. I need to get back into mostly yellow or preferably the green area, right? Um, I guess as I talked about the 60 hours, I'm trying to keep this up here so you can see I'm not doing anything flaky, right? So, um, my manager was in Australia, so her workday started when mine ended. So I would work from 8 to 4, 8 to 5, and then I would work from 5 to 6, 7, 8, depending on how many meetings we had or what sort of special projects we were working on or one-on-ones or things like that. And that's where my 60 hours came in. 2 to 3 nights a week, I was doing an extra 4 to 5, 6 hours, sometimes till I can remember one time we worked till midnight my time because then it was time for her to go home. So so it's so what could I do to get back to the green? That's really where I needed to be. So I started with Steve, and I was certainly here in the red area. I was ticked off. I was ticked off at not at the company so much, a little bit, but at the manager, that she had decided that I was no longer a valued employee. And a couple of the things that she said in the exit interview I felt were incorrect, not true even, right? But it didn't really do me much good to argue with her at that point, right? So go through, and I get to the yellow area where I'm working forward. I feel I'm doing good, and it's I don't know. It's a mixed bag because we have yellow, red, and green, and they change. Instead of being red, yellow, green, now it's green, red, yellow, and depending on where I was in the job search, depended on what it was. I might be green, going straight to red, then going to yellow, but it was different, and I had to figure out what is it I'm going to do to make it so that I can get back to go from the red to the yellow to the green and be able to be a normal person again, just like a stoplight. And where am I now? I'm in the green. I'm there. So that's what it is. So my little red, yellow, green trick.
Yay. Round of applause.
So,
That was fun. That was fun. And a great story.
so thank you, Steve, for inviting me back. I know we figured it out how it was going to work, and it didn't work because I was working Monday through Friday eights up until the first of the year. Then I got onto this schedule. So thank you for letting me come back and remember all the good that I felt from this team. So
Well, thank you. Big round of applause to Carl for coming today and sharing, taking time out of his day.
I'm going to pop off, Steve, because I do have a couple other things I need to get done. Since I'm working 10-hour days now, I have to get a lot done on Mondays. So.
But they're 10-hour days, but only 4 of them, right?
There's 4 of them, and I work through my lunch break, so it's really just 10 hours. It's not an 11-hour day at the office, right? So they gave me that option, and I grabbed it. So
Okay. Well, again, thank you again for coming today, and we'll stay in contact through our
absolutely,
mutual.
please
Okay.
do. And if there's anything I can do to help out, on again, I can flop my hours around, but if it is at a job fair or something where you were doing something, if I could help you out, I'd be more than happy to try to figure out how to do that.
Okay. And if you have any good things on the state for those who are at the state, that would be great. And yes, if you have a new trick and you need an audience, we're here for you. We're here for you.
Sounds good. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
Thanks.
Again, another round of applause. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, everybody. Good luck.
All right. Bye-bye.